Hey everyone, I'm Stacey Epstein, and this is AI've Got Questions. Last season, I had such a great time talking to founders of marketing focused AI technology companies. But this season, we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm sitting down with some of the most highly respected CMOs and learning about how they are leveraging AI in their organizations so that you can learn it too. Let's hear who's next. Today on the show, we have my good friend and an all around fantastic person, really stellar marketer that I have looked up to for a long time, Sydney Sloan, who is currently the CMO at G2 and has had lots of really interesting marketing experience, some really great SaaS companies, Scale, the venture capital firm. So tell us a little bit about you and your journey and how you got to where you are today. And then we're going to talk AI.
Yeah, it's
I've got
crazy
some questions.
because I've got some questions. It's really interesting to look back and be like, this is decades in the making, and yet there's still something new I learn every day.
Yep.
Grew up at Adobe. I did about 16 years there, mostly in product marketing roles in the document side. So like the digital team, but I did like very enterprisey, lots of vertical. And so that was a great place to have like the first half of my career. And then I moved to Silicon Valley and worked at a company called Jive, which had some awesome people. And then my first CMO gig was at a document management company called Alfresco. And then I went from there. I had such good advice. This is an advice piece for your like up and coming CMO
Awesome.
listeners.
Yep.
The first job, you get the role. And I was really lucky at Alfresco that my CEO, Doug Dennerline, was like, oh, Doug. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was so supportive of me. And I just, I really felt like, I had the CEO that allowed me to be me and take risks. And then I got this advice, and this friend said, the second CMO job you pick really matters what company you pick. That's what you'll be judged on. And so I took a while for that one, and saw what was happening in like 2018 with sales tech and sales engagement. And so I interviewed at Clary, Outreach, and SalesLoft. All three were taking their C round at the same time. Sorry, long-winded, but fun stories. And so I ended up at SalesLoft. I just aligned with their leadership and culture, and literally was the best job I ever had. I loved it. And then was
Great
burnt out.
company, great
Such a good
CEO.
it was just the culture.
Mhm.
The reason it was great, and you don't really hear this, but we are an employee first company. You hear
Mhm.
product led, sales led, customer led. You were employee led. And the idea was that if you loved on your employees and created the next generation of great leaders, they in turn would take that love and appreciation and pay it forward to the customers. And
Totally.
our customers were us, right? And it just worked.
Yeah.
Gives me goosebumps. It was just,
Totally.
gosh, so great, and a great place. I knew I was going to learn too. Like they were
Mhm.
so committed to learning together and growing together, and they were voracious learners and readers, the two co-founders. And then yeah, took the time, went to Scale Ventures, got to work with our friend Craig Rosenberg, which was a hoot.
Yes. I filmed a session on his podcast on the
Ah,
transaction a
the
few days ago.
transaction. Yeah, with
Super
Matt. So
fun.
fun.
Super
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, if you don't follow the transaction, follow it.
We should.
It's like tactical, good stuff. And then dipped my toe in security because it's a hot market. Validated that not for me. And then ended up at G2. I was an advisor. We were on the EAB
Yep.
together,
You
Stacy.
were.
It had just G2 had been such a successful part of my equation in defining how to create category leadership in emerging categories. And so I love this idea that you got to like work with founders on like category definition and helping them build their brand. And just watching that, like I'm watching it in the AEO category right now. We're having
Totally.
flashbacks to sales engagement.
Yes.
And then also just being able to integrate the signals into our demand gen. Like I only ever work P1 leads. That's all I ever care about. Like fundraisers is it. And so to find really warm, ready to go leads is what I want to feed the sales teams and SDRs. And G2 was always that. And I was like, let's come back to Martech, which is what I love doing. I love being with my people. And little did I know the world would change in this year and a half that I've been here. I feel like I'm at the forefront once again of helping an industry, reform. And so that's my very long-winded
No, it's
introduction.
not. I mean, you're like me. I feel like our lives and paths have gone in and out of. I mean, I remember looking at Jive back at Success Factors. Of course, then Doug Dennerlein went to Success Factors, serving on the advisory board at G2 together. And I've been so excited to have you on the show because for a lot of reasons. One, because I love just chatting with you, and I know the audience will love to hear from you. But G2 is at such an interesting place during this big AI revolution. Obviously, you've got to look at how to use AI internally for your
Yeah.
team, for your marketing. Also, we all know at the core of AI is data, and G2 has some of the most interesting data out there. I've always said, and I used to say this in our advisory board meetings, G2 is the one company that can tell us what's going to be hot next because you
Hmm.
can see where ratings are taking off and what categories are starting to form. And so there's a lot of insight. But I think also maybe you're still on your tour, but you just finished your AI tour, being sitting at
I got back from
G2.
London last
Oh,
night.
you did?
I am
You look,
done. Yeah,
you look
that's it.
very fresh. You must have had a spot of tea. But I think also just sitting in your seat, you're seeing AI in so many different categories across marketing, across all functions of the business. So again, I've been excited to hear from you. And I don't know, maybe we can start with AEO because it's on everybody's mind. And I
Mhm.
saw Kerry Lou just put a piece out today and everybody's talking about it. It's obviously an area of huge impact, but let's just leave it wide open.
Yeah.
You just got home from London. You've been talking about AI for the last few months on your tour. What is the thing that jumps out at you most about AI?
Boy, that's a big
I
one.
know.
It's so I'll say it from two perspectives, and I'll just kind of think through the way that we crafted the workshop itself. Because the first section of the workshop, our evangelist Tim Sanders, who people should follow,
Yes.
insanely smart,
So smart.
talked about the why. What is happening in the industry as it relates to the introduction of AI, and the key takeaway from that session is really that AI is a prediction machine. It is learned on the past and it takes all that data and it helps predict, which is what humans used to be able to do based on our intuition and experiences. And so the way to think about the difference between what AI can do and what humans can do is AI is the prediction and humans are the judgment. And AI can't replicate that. My favorite part of his spiel is like where he talks about Rick Rubin and the Rick Rubin economy. And I didn't know who Rick Rubin was until then, and now I do. He was a producer and he advised some of the best bands in the world, from the Beastie Boys to all of them, tons. And like has all these Grammys and doesn't actually know how to play an instrument. But he's like, my taste seems to be valuable to those who hire me.
Huh.
And so he has great judgment about what's going to be successful and what's not, or how to craft one song in one way or produce one song in one way versus the other. And so that's the difference. It's like really we as humans have to use our judgment to direct the AI as to what to do, what not to do, which is why you hear these, oh, just a young person can do it. They can just like AI and build an
Right.
agent. And it's like, well, you kind of still have to know
Yeah.
what you're doing to ask the right question.
Yeah.
And so that to me is like where AI is, like the difference between before and now, the era that we're living in, and what roles humans will play and what roles agents will play. The process that I think we're all on, or the journey that we're all on, is as leaders, the first thing that we have to do is get our teams very comfortable with using AI. And so that's kind of step one, is the familiarity, the data you use, and realizing how to write a great prompt and what it can do for you. And then the next phase is like starting to orchestrate, which was the whole point of the roadshow, was we had a blank slate. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's, what are your goals? What are your outcomes? And if you could start fresh, which is what I recommend, what would a new workflow look like? What would be the signals that you would want to identify? What would be the way that you connect agents to signals? What roles do humans play? And so we can go deeper into that, but that's kind of where we teed it up, is like, okay, that's a whole new world. Marketing automation, just put it to the side. It's gone.
Yep.
And now we have to
Totally.
talk about signals and segments and AI orchestration. That is the future.
So let's dig in a little bit because part of the reason that I evolved this podcast from talking to founders of
Mm.
AI for marketing companies to talking to actual CMOs is that the feedback I kept getting is it's great to learn about all this technology, but I'm still struggling with how to really start. And I think by now, I hope most CMOs have started by building agentic processes or figuring out how to leverage custom chat GPT so that you can do
Yeah.
specific things. But I've been having fun digging into the use cases that marketers are doing. And let's talk about signals. We've talked a lot about
Yeah.
more outbound flows on the show. We haven't done a lot of talk about, I mean, maybe
Mm.
it's not even going to be called ABM anymore, but understanding signals. I would love to dive into that if that's a use case you came
Yeah.
across.
Yeah, it is. Use cases for marketing in general, just because we're such a diverse function. You definitely hear AI for content and AI for personas. But when it comes to the role that it plays in this orchestrated workflow, the first thing that I think when I go back and I was talking about, I only wanted to work hot leads. And so I think that now we have this ability to go out and find signals. So we had Clay was the partner that we selected to talk about signals and the new signal economy and why we need to think differently about that,
Hmm.
because there's so many ways now that we can go and find them.
Hmm.
And so
Okay.
before we would create our ICP, which you still have to do today.
Yes.
And then we would say, okay, for that ICP, it made it more efficient that we could then target our advertising dollars to our target accounts, but we didn't know which ones were actually in market. And so we spent a lot of time and energy building, trying to find those companies. Well, now there's new ways. And so you have to understand the signal, which is why I was like signal to agentic. And I still think you have to like create the types of signals that go into certain segments. You could have competitive signals, you could have behavioral signals, like, and there's lots of different behavioral. I think it's more of the signals are in the behavior category when you think about ICP than the technographic and firmographic signals. A good example that they gave and was it back in the security space, but it was like if someone has just hired their first engineer
Hmm.
or their first DevOps or tech ops, is that the right time for them to consider getting their SOC 2? And
And is that
so how
because,
do you
and you know that from LinkedIn?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep.
There's certain things that you can do on LinkedIn. There's certain things you can't do. Another one would be the compete signal. So Vanta was one of their customers, and that was my competitor. So I'm like, "Ah, now I knew how they were doing it because you can mine LinkedIn in the comments in your areas, but there are other ways to audit, like audit Reddit threads is another good one, like where it has mentions, and then and that is a signal. And so then how do you tie that signal? And then the cool thing about Clay is they run it through their data waterfall to actually, pop out confirmed customer and their data has been validated. And so you just have a higher quality lead with that as well. I mean, I'll prop G2, like G2 signals are very strong account signals. You have a
100%.
an account researching in your category, you versus your competitor, Drata versus Vanta. Well, those leads every single time I would put directly into our compete
100%.
nurture campaign. So what's different now is I would plug them into the outbound agent that I built that was an expert in Drata versus Vanta. What's interesting here is like, you can pick companies that have built AI agentic capabilities into their platform. So Sixth Sense has their intelligent workflow, so you could build it in there. That's what we use. So that's what we would have done. Or you can custom build an agent and say, I want that signal to be worked by this agent. And that agent is specifically trained on how to respond to a competitive signal. Here's the three things. This is the research step I want you to do. This is the personalization I want you to do, and send it. And so that was the second session in was qualified and Sixth Sense and also Infuse over in the UK, talking about how to think about AI orchestration to signals.
Yeah.
And, that it was like, oh, I don't know. Do we want agents sending emails? And you can imagine Latney going, have you looked at the emails coming from SDRs lately? And
100%.
she's like,
Hundred-
if you have a question,
I
I think
know.
we're going to be better here. And so every signal gets worked on a
Yeah.
timely manner because that's what really matters. I feel like our job is to like give the highest quality signal and respond in the fastest time. And so my
And
fun
in the
fact.
smartest time too, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
personalized, right? Like, it was funny, I was in our San Francisco stop, not intentionally, it just came out of my mouth. I was like, all I care about is weed and speed, but you want to weed out the bad stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like you want to make sure that you're passing over high quality accounts that are in a buying cycle. And then you want to book that meeting as fast as you possibly can. And if you just focus on that, if you just focus on that, which is the inbound motion, right? You're kind of connecting inbound and outbound. So, you put a meeting booker on your site, like filling out a form, never. Do not fill out a form. If they're giving signals, you can start running your outbound plays to them. If they're on your website, they should be conversing with an AI agent that can
Yep.
actually book the meeting. That's
Yep.
it. That is now. That's not the future. That is the now.
Yeah, I mean, throw in something like OneMind, and the conversing is even feels more like a human. But I think if I can summarize the use case, and this is one of the things that I really love about AI, is that it used to be we were trying to automate one part of our marketing process or flow, and there was a tool that helped us do that. I think what AI does is it makes us smarter and faster on everything we do. So we're finding the signals better because of AI. We're finding the signals faster. This isn't someone that posted Vanta versus Drata a month ago. It's someone that
Right.
posted it today. And
In
we're
the
able
in a
to
Reddit thread. Right.
exact in Reddit.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and we're able to get that, and we're able to then, it used to be like, okay, now we have it. It's a lead. Send it over to the SDR.
Someone input it. Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully the SDR remembers their training on competitive Vanta versus Drata and has a wherewithal to write a good email and doesn't send our whole competitive deck that was actually never meant to
Yeah.
be external, like people. I love your comment about Latiny, and I feel the same way. Like, I'm a writer, I have a degree in English, and I still think AI makes my writing better. Now think
Yeah.
of your recent college grad.
And they're
So
trying. It's
it's
not like they're
making
not
that better.
trying, but yeah. Yeah.
And I may even have AGI doing some of the process for me to add some human feel to it. And at the end of the day, I might be having a real sales conversation with that person that posted on Reddit within hours.
Right.
And that's different AI all the
And
way through the process.
that is the one that will win the deal. That is the one that will win the deal because the customer will be like, oh my gosh, like if the content is good, you're educating them, you're answering their question, and you connect with them first. The
Yeah.
people who get to the buyer first, as they're doing in their research, I think the data says it's like 75 to 80% of the first connection is the one that actually ends up winning in the opportunity. I think there's two other parts to this equation though, as we're being honest with
Hmm.
the world as it sits today. So them going to a Reddit thread is likely their second place they're going. Or if
Right.
they're even coming to G2, it's the second place they're going. We're just updating our data on buyer behavior. And we did it in April and we decided to do it again because we know things are changing so fast. So in April, 29% of people said that they were starting with their research process by going to an LLM. That just went to 50% in 4 months.
Crazy.
70% change. So 50% of buyers are first starting their research on LLMs. And so if you don't have your AEO strategy in place yet, get on it now. Like I was just talking
Yeah.
to CMO today and he was like, we were the first to SEO, we won, and now we have to do this big shift. And I'm like, yep, you sure
Yep.
do.
I know.
And so understanding what questions are being asked, how to reorient your content, not for search, but for answers. And the recommendation we make is think about the persona jobs to be done. That'll give you the right questions as they think about their roles. Answer them all, not just for the part you do, right? We know the good thing is to build brand is you want to have the content for all their questions, not just your question. And then you start to monitor through an AEO tool. And there used to be in April, there were 7 on G2, and now there's 67 in 4 months. So talk about a category in just like exploding.
Totally.
So you go to the AEO tools and they will tell you like what questions people are asking, what citations the LLMs are referencing so you can go see. Thankfully, G2 is one of those top references. Like I mentioned, Reddit is another reference, and you build your content strategy for them. Then the second click is those citations. So if the citation was a Reddit thread, then that's where they're going to go. If the citation was a G2, that's where they're going to go do their research. And so that's that second layer of peer validation. And then the third one is they're going to come to your website. So they're still coming, but the
Yeah.
question is, can you get to them first
Yeah.
off of that signal? So that is the new buyer process. And so we have to reorient our work to meet the buyer where they are.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
I'm going to keep true to my promise to the audience to try to keep these around 20 minutes. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface, but I think it's a good point to wrap up on is AEO. If you are not figuring it out today, if you don't have a
Yeah.
plan for it today, I don't care what size company you are, it's where everyone's going. Paid search used to be only for certain companies. AEO is for everyone. If you're a
Right.
marketer and you're not going on G2 and looking at those 67 providers, that's step one in my book.
Yep. And they'll pick the leaders. That's why people build their brands on G2. So, yes, it's start with AEO, start where buyers are, and then signals to action in minutes.
Yeah.
Those are my two takeaways. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's been so great having you on the show as I knew it would. And
Thank you.
I looked at the time and I was like, no, we're only
Whoops.
like 5 minutes in. But I'll have you back on. This changes so fast. So let's check in
Yeah.
again in 6 months. We'll see what's hot and interesting. And thanks for
Sounds
being on
good.
the show. Okay.
Of course.
Bye bye.